I heard people talking about the rich getting richer after COVID, and I didn't quite understand the point. But it's true that those with significant wealth got richer while everyone else was suffering. I think that many economists miss this trend, including me. This is why many people were wrongly predicting that house prices would crash, including me. I've done a separate video on this. I must say that Gary Stevenson on the YouTube channel Gary's Economics was the first person that I've really heard talking about this extensively. Credit definitely goes to Gary on this one. The COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war caused a big shift in global economies, and the UK was no exception. The immediate effects of the crisis brought about economic hardship for millions, particularly through the cost of living crisis. But the longer-term effects have revealed a troubling trend. The rich have got richer and inequality has widened even further. In the UK, the combination of stagnant wages, increasing asset prices, and policy responses such as quantitative easing, QE, has disproportionately benefited those who already held significant wealth. The wealth in the UK economy is distributed very unequally. Half of the UK population owns 91% of the UK's wealth. This is a massive amount of wealth. Total UK wealth is more than £15 trillion. The size of the UK economy is only £2.3 trillion per year. The top 10% alone own around 43% of the wealth, £6.5 trillion. The richest 10% of the UK population own wealth to the tune of 3 times the size of the economy. One of the main causes of growing inequality is the stark difference between real wage growth and asset price appreciation. Since the financial crisis of 2008, real wages in the UK have largely stagnated, particularly when adjusted for inflation. In contrast, asset prices, especially in property and financial markets, have soared. The result is that those who own assets such as property or stocks have seen their wealth increase significantly, while those relying on wages have really struggled to keep pace. During the pandemic, this divergence became more pronounced. While wages remained flat or fell for many workers, the stock market rebounded strongly after its initial crash and house prices surged. This increase in asset values disproportionately benefited the wealthiest households who already owned most of these assets, while workers were left to cope with stagnant earnings and rising living costs. One of the most significant contributors to this asset price inflation is that technical monetary policy operation called quantitative easing, QE. When I studied economics in the 1980s, this terminology didn't exist. QE has been used by central banks around the world, and this includes the Bank of England. It was designed as an emergency measure during the financial crisis of 2008 and used again during the COVID-19 pandemic. QE involves the large-scale purchase of government bonds and other financial assets to inject liquidity into the economy. According to the Bank of England, they bought £895 billion worth of bonds. The effect of QE on asset prices has been profound. When the government buys bonds, the price of bonds increases. So QE has driven up the value of financial assets, benefiting the owners of those assets disproportionately. As a result, the wealthiest households who own the bulk of these financial assets have seen really significant gains. We can see that 50% of the population own 91% of the property wealth in the UK. 38% is owned by the wealthiest 10% of UK citizens. For financial wealth, 97% of savings and investments are held by the richest 50% of the population. The wealthiest 10% owns a whopping 58% of financial wealth. This group owns 38% of the property wealth, and 58% of savings investments are held by 10% of the population. This is incredible wealth. One interesting point to consider is the distinction between productive and non-productive wealth. Wealth that is made from economic activity can have positive knock-on effects for the economy. On the other hand, although this type of asset appreciation has made the wealthy richer, this kind of wealth accumulation does nothing to contribute to the broader economy in a productive way. It's purely passive income. The asset owner sits back and watches the asset grow. When stock or bond prices and property values rise, this enriches asset owners, but it doesn't generate new goods or services or create jobs in the same way that investment in business or infrastructure might. We've heard talk of the trickle-down effect, that as long as the economy grows, the effect will trickle down throughout the whole economy so that everyone benefits. The truth is that there is no trickle-down effect. The rich just seem to keep getting richer. Inequality and poverty are much higher now than they were in the decades following the Second World War. This growing divide cannot continue. It's going to affect the fabric of society if wealth keeps being increasingly concentrated at the top. Only the government can correct this. The market is not able to put this right. In fact, it's going to keep getting worse. Whether it's through a wealth tax or other means, the UK is rich enough to end poverty, to end massive inequality, to ensure that nobody needs to visit a food bank, to give everybody access to world-class healthcare without long waiting lists. This is the type of UK that I want to live in. This level of inequality is just unsustainable. I hope you found this information useful. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. I'd be really grateful for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.